Okay, let's get into this. We're taking you to one of the most volatile places on the entire planet.
Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula.
Exactly. And this isn't just, a scenic spot. This is the absolute edge. It's where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates are literally meeting, and the land is being torn apart.
Right. It's a place of incredible destruction, but also, and this is what's so fascinating, it's a stage for human ingenuity, for this deep maritime history.
And a biological mystery that's, what, a century and a half old?
And only just solved with modern science.
Yeah. So that's our mission today. We're going to try and connect all these different threads for you.
We've pulled sources from, all over the place. We have the latest geological reports tracking those 9 rapid-fire volcanic eruptions that hit between late 2023 and August 2025.
Right.
But then we're also pulling from the memoirs of these really isolated lighthouse keepers and even high-resolution ancient DNA analysis.
We want to show you how this relentless power of the Earth has shaped human history and sometimes, well, extinguished it entirely, all on this one small piece of land.
And we have to start with the volcanic present because the activity there recently is just breathtaking.
This whole series of eruptions, the Sunnutur eruptions, they were preceded by this intense, almost overwhelming period of seismic swarms.
And this wasn't just a few tremors. By November 2023, the authorities had recorded something like 20,000 earthquakes.
20,000.
With the largest one going over magnitude 5.3. That kind of intensity is why the peninsula has been under this global spotlight. It created an immediate and, frankly, a continuing state of urgency.
Especially for the residents of Grunewald.
Oh, absolutely. The town was evacuated and suffered just heavy, heavy damage. This is not some passive geological process. This is the Earth screaming.
So, okay, let's dive into why. Why is this one 40-kilometer stretch of land such a geological hotspot?
Well, the fundamental concept, the thing you have to grasp, is that Iceland is literally being split in two.
And this is one of the few places you can actually see it happen on land.
That's the key. The Reykjanes Peninsula is one of maybe a handful of places on the planet where the mid-Atlantic ridge, that massive underwater mountain range, is visible above the ocean.
So when you're there, you are standing on the boundary line.
You're right on it. The North American plate on one side, the Eurasian on the other. And crucially, they are not sitting still.
They're constantly moving apart.
Constantly, at a rate of about 2 centimeters a year.
Which is about the speed your fingernails grow, right?
Exactly. It doesn't sound like much, but that constant pulling action creates the perfect conditions for all this volcanic and seismic activity. It's just tearing the crust apart from below.
So we know the plates are pulling apart, but how does that tension translate into these, sudden, violent eruptions we've been seeing? What's the immediate trigger?
The trigger is what's called a magmatic intrusion. Basically, these intense earthquake swarms are caused by huge volumes of magma molten rock, pushing its way up from deep below.
And it's exploiting the weaknesses in the crust.
Precisely. As the crust pulls apart, the magma moves in laterally, and that creates enormous stress changes on the surface above.
Which we can actually see. We see the ground sinking.
You do. You see ground subsidence and the creation of these large-scale subsidence valleys called grabens. The damage near Grunewald wasn't just from lava flows.
A lot of it was the ground itself just collapsing.
A huge amount of it.
Yeah.
This extensive graben valley formed. It's like a long trough bounded by faults, and the ground just dropped. That motion is almost as destructive as the lava.
And the amount of lava itself has been just immense. Even the capital, Reykjavik, which is 42 kilometers away.
Yeah. They reported seeing lava fountains shooting up 100 meters high during that first eruption in December 2023.
Wow.
The volumes are staggering. If you look at the August to September 2024 event, which was the largest in this series, it expelled 61 million cubic meters of lava.
It's hard to even picture that.
Okay, think of it this way. That's enough molten rock to bury the entire National Mall in Washington, D.C., under more than 150 feet of lava.
That is an incredible amount of material.
And that much volume leaving the magma chamber below caused the ground to warp. The Svartsengi area, for instance, it sank by over 25 centimeters, that's almost 10 inches, during just one event in April 2025.
So here's where we see this amazing contrast. You have this unstoppable force of nature, and then you have the sheer determination of engineers trying to save this critical infrastructure.
It was a true battle, a fight for survival against the lava. As soon as the seismic activity spiked in November 2023, authorities just immediately went into action.
They started building those huge barriers.
Massive earthen walls, yeah. They built them around the key assets, the Blue Lagoon, and most importantly, the the Svartsengi power station.
And the threat wasn't just electricity, was it? It was the heat.
The heat is everything there. Lava flows were threatening the power station, sure, but even more critically, the Jarvavikuri hot water pipeline. That's the main artery for the regional heat supply.
If that goes, the whole region loses heat, hot water, everything.
In the middle of a North Atlantic winter, so workers were literally racing the clock and the lava. They were repairing and then submerging sections of the piping, installing new bypass lines, sometimes just inches from active lava flows.
But they also thought long-term.
They did, which was so impressive. In June of 2024, they successfully drilled brand new geothermal boreholes specifically to create redundancy. They built a backup.
So if one line gets severed by lava,
A second source can immediately take over. It's an incredible act of resilience.
and yet even with that amazing feat of engineering, you just can't tame this entire landscape. Right next to all this, the coastline itself is visibly dissolving.
That contrast is so stark, isn't it? We're talking about the Valanuker Cliff. It's made of this soft volcanic tuff, and geologists just describe it as constantly crumbling.
And they had to close it off recently.
They did. In late 2025, new cracks appeared, and the risk of collapse was just too high. It's now deemed life-threatening. A real reminder that while you can build a wall to deflect lava, you can't stop the whole Earth from pulling itself apart.
And perched right near that crumbling edge is this incredible landmark, the Reykjanes Lighthouse. It's Iceland's oldest.
And interestingly, the one we see today, the
Yeah.
31-meter tower that's been running since 1929, is actually the second one.
What happened to the first?
An earthquake. The original was built in 1878 and lasted only 8 years before a major earthquake completely destroyed it in 1886. They learned their lesson and built a new one on a much more stable hill.
The current light is 73 meters above sea level, right? A double flash every 30 seconds.
That's the one. But beyond the specs, the human story of just keeping that light on, it's one of just extreme isolation and toughness.
Until the keepers finally left in 1999.
Exactly. I mean, it was an incredibly demanding life. The keeper's memoirs, they paint this vivid picture of storms so violent that waves would smash the windows over 100 feet above the sea.
Wow.
Their survival really depended on this tight-knit community and just intense resourcefulness.
I love that story about Goonie with the truck.
Yes. Goody was this retired keeper, known for his long life. He lived to be 94 and his amazing ingenuity. His theory was that his longevity was helped by eating fish 5 times a week.
A practicality born of that life.
Totally. It's those little details that bring that isolation to life for you.
And that light was desperately needed. I mean, that coast has a bad reputation for a reason.
Absolutely.
Jagged reefs, heavy currents. It's a shipwreck cemetery.
And 2 wrecks really stand out. First, you have the American sailing vessel, the Jamestown. In 1880, it was carrying this precious hardwood for U.S. railroads.
Right.
It lost its rudder, drifted for 4 agonizing months across the Atlantic, and then finally grounded near Hafnir in 1881.
But this disaster became this kind of miracle for the local Icelanders.
A complete miracle. Iceland had been so heavily deforested over the centuries that this salvaged timber was like gold. It was used to build homes all over the region.
And some of it is still there, isn't it?
It is. There's a famous historic villa in Reykjavik where the original American hardwood beams are still part of the structure today. A tragedy delivering a gift.
And then, if we go back even further, more than 200 years, there's the Milkmaid.
The Milkmaid, yeah.
Yeah.
From 1659, it's the oldest identified shipwreck in Iceland. This was a Dutch merchant ship on a very dangerous clandestine trading mission.
Clandestine?
They were trying to bypass the rigid trade monopoly that the Danish government enforced for 200 years. Because the water is so cold, its lower hull is still unusually well preserved. It's this perfect time capsule for archaeologists.
It's amazing that those lighthouses, built to prevent exactly these kinds of tragedies, were only truly effective because of one critical technological breakthrough.
The Fresnel lens.
The invention that saved 1 million ships.
Absolutely. Before Augustin Jean Fresnel designed this in 1822, early lenses were just huge, thick, and so inefficient. They absorbed or scattered most of the light.
So you needed these massive lamps just to get a weak beam out.
Exactly. And Fresnel's genius was all in geometry and optics. Instead of one big piece of glass, he divided the lens into these concentric rings and prisms.
So it could capture so much more of the light from the lamp.
It captured light that would have normally been lost and redirected all of it into a single, incredibly strong, focused, horizontal beam.
And wasn't just bending the light.
No, that's the key. He used 2 principles: standard refraction, the dioptric action, but also, crucially, total internal reflection, the cadidioptric action.
So the light hitting the outer prisms gets perfectly reflected back into the main beam.
Yes, it was the first time they were combined so effectively. You got a system that could transmit 80 to 85% of the light. It was a revolution. And that system of orders for classifying lenses by size, that's all from Fresnel.
And that tech is still everywhere. It's wild to think that the same design is in, like, car headlights, theater spotlights.
A direct descendant of Fresnel's system, still at work.
Okay, let's pivot now from a breakthrough that saved lives to a tragedy that marks this irreversible loss. But it's centered right back here, in the Reykjanes region, LD Island.
Right. This is the tragic final chapter of the Great Auk.
On July 3rd, 1844.
3 Icelandic hunters killed the last known breeding pair of this magnificent bird, and they crushed their single egg. And with that, the species was extinct.
Just describe the bird for us. It was an incredible creature.
It really was, nearly 3 feet tall, completely flightless. Its wings had evolved into these powerful flippers that let it dive up to 250 feet in freezing water. It survived ice ages, eruptions.
But it couldn't survive us.
They couldn't survive the insatiable demand from museums and collectors for specimens. That's what did it.
And for 180 years, the exact location of the skin of that last female bird was a complete mystery. We knew the male skin was in Brussels, the orgies were in jars in Denmark, but the female skin was lost, misidentified.
And this is where ancient DNA becomes this brilliant piece of detective work. Researchers used samples from the organs in Denmark and started comparing them to unidentified museum specimens around the world.
And they finally found it.
They finally found it in the American Midwest, of all places.
The Cincinnati auk.
That's right. Recent DNA sequencing confirmed that a misidentified specimen at the Museum of Natural History and Science in Cincinnati is the long-lost skin of the last female great auk.
It's an incredible scientific find, but it's also just so heartbreaking.
It is. And it's a sad coincidence. That same museum is also the final resting place of Martha, the last passenger pigeon, and Incas, the last Carolina parakeet.
So the great auk completes this tragic trio of extinctions, all housed in one place.
And today there's a bronze sculpture of the great auk that stands at Reykjanes, a silent memorial to a species that wasn't conquered by volcanoes, but by us.
So this whole deep dive, it spans centuries. We've seen the Mid-Atlantic Ridge driving creation and destruction. We've seen human ingenuity with the Fresnel lens, shipwrecks that become lifelines, and this haunting history of loss, all on the same unstable ground.
It really all comes back to that narrow, unstable piece of land. We talked about the Reykjanes Lighthouse, that 31-meter beacon built on a quote-unquote stable hill after the first one was destroyed.
And knowing what we know now, that the land is being pulled apart 2 centimeters every single year, that the cliffs nearby are literally crumbling.
You have to ask the question, what does it really mean to build something you intend to be permanent, like a lighthouse, on land that is actively, visibly being pulled apart beneath your feet?
The lighthouse isn't fixed.
It's not. It's drifting a few centimeters away from Europe every year. How long before that stable hill becomes unstable again? It challenges the very definition of permanence. That's a powerful thought to carry with you.